and I always give the founders the same advice, which is build a profitable business and then give it away. What I would tell you is where
Hello, and thank you for joining our Fireside Chats with founders at the European Cardano community. I am Marcus, one of the core team members, and if you like what we are doing, please consider supporting our individual projects. You will find the links to our guests and our projects below the video. Please give us a thumbs up, follow us by hitting the bell icon, and let's enjoy this session.
As usual, hello. Welcome everybody to another appointment of our Fireside Chat Town Hall. We have to discuss so many arguments now. We have a lot of troubles going on in the community, but we are here and pushing forward every time, as usual. So let's start this session with our mantra. That is exactly the same mantra that you can read during the Global Town Hall. But to make it even more confusing, we decided to translate every line in a different language spoken in Europe. And what we usually do is that everybody takes a line of the guests. Don't be shy, and let's follow the flow. I will start because I'm the only Italian in the room, so the first line is Italian. Benvenuti all'esperimento.
les choses peuvent.
Nice.
Hebra? Sorry.
Fehlende Dokumentation.
Differ greatly between iterations.
This is Quasar's line.
Disorient, overload, and inspire.
Kostas, please read the next line so that somebody can have the Greek word correctly spelled for once.
Okay. Our goal, provide a asφαλές and lively environment for you to explore the highest potential de la colaboración humana.
That was amazing.
Something like that.
Yeah. Was perfect. Thank you very much. Cool. We did great this time. And also we have this European mantra. It's very important and something that we are proud to read every time, and Marcus wrote it. So is there anybody who wants to read it instead? Otherwise, we switch to the main author of the slide.
Keep your nodes up to date.
Awesome.
Try to study or learn something new every day.
Cool.
Support and connect with community members for synergies and goals.
Be inclusive, friendly, and wise with words, even in anger.
Share information without destroying dreams, people, and their reputation.
Awesome. Perfect, guys. So, gentle reminder that as one of the main activities of the European Cardano community is to host Twitter spaces in different languages spoken in Europe. We have quite regular Greek spaces. We have now regular German spaces. The next one will be in 10 days, more or less. We will start soon with Italian spaces that we had regularly for a few months, but we stopped a little bit now because of those things happening right now, but we'll get back to it. We had the French ones, and we really want to expand even more our reach. So if you have anybody in Europe, some friends that wants to talk about anything Cardano related, please get in touch with us and we'll make it happen. We have a small budget that we can use to compensate the hosts for those spaces. So we want to make a great word and spread the word as much as we can. So yeah, I think that that's it for the introduction. We can present our guests. And I'm so happy to have Rafael with us with GenWealth. Welcome, Rafael.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you so much. In terms of GenWealth, we are a crypto inheritance and recovery DApp. And as a company, we really want to create solutions that empower people and give them more control over their assets and also more peace of mind, I would say. And for our DApp, it's very simple. You can use it as you use a wallet. You can do the same actions as you can do with your wallet, but on top of that, you're able to set rules for you to recover your own crypto, and also rules for your family to recover your crypto after you're gone, even defining who are your beneficiaries and what kind of assets you want to leave for each of the beneficiaries. And this solves big problems, both in the inheritance space, but also in blockchain, because recovery is a big problem. We have billions of Bitcoins, of cryptocurrencies lost forever due to lack of a recovery mechanism. So we need a solution, and hopefully a solution that is on-chain, decentralized and self-custodial. And that's what we are trying to build. And that's
Very
it,
nice.
to keep it short.
Cool. I have a lot of questions about that, but we'll keep them for later. The second guest is somebody that maybe you already met before, I'm not sure. It's a very interesting project about digital system midwifery, and I think we have the founder here with us, maybe. I saw...
Two of them.
Oh, okay,
Hello,
well, two
hello.
of them. Wiebke, so nice to
Yeah.
meet you,
Yeah, nice
finally.
to meet you too all here.
So we're starting out. This is exciting for me because this is actually the first time since a long time and since a lot of development. But we're starting exactly at the other way, at the other end of Raphael. We are starting at the birth, at the inception. And we believe that midwives are the cornerstone of our future. And there are too little of them. The amount is too little. And this will not change in the blink of an eye. Especially with Corona, the World Health Organization had a few backlashes. But we can use hybrid health to bridge the gap. So that means not only digital, but connecting to the last mile projects. And while we do that, we want to support midwives to become more sustainable and pregnant women to have an affordable midwifery or pregnancy. And with all that, we also add self-sovereign identity. So basically owning your data and being able to do with that what you want. Basically providing it for research, medical research, to improve the whole process. Or the option to monetize your data. This is something that is not a favorable topic to be mentioned, but if the owner of the data wants to do that, they can do that. We will not restrict it. And at the same time, we will have a DAO that is restricting the artificial intelligence response. So basically, we will lock the responses on the blockchain at a certain state, but not us, but the midwives will have to decide it. And with that, they gather some points that they can then use to show their recognition or their reputation and their experience within the system. And this, in combination with their track record of delivering a proper birth, will enable them to get a better insurance rating. So that's one part of it. And the second part is leveraging wealthier countries to support the lesser well-off countries. That's basically Larissa.Health in a nutshell.
Cool. Very, very nice. Very well explained.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead. And finally, we have DJ Storm. Tell us about it.
Hey, folks.
Hi.
I work with Storm Partners. We are a management and strategy consulting firm that works with Web3 protocols. And as I answered another ecosystem who asked me who are all these Storm people in our channel, we do all the stuff that's needed to run an ecosystem that is not development. Another way I've described us is we pick up the garbage at Burning Man so that other people can be really creative and have fun and do decentralized crazy things. So some of the things that we're doing for Cardano right now is we're assisting in helping onboard projects like we did for GenWealth. We're providing legal support to projects funded by Catalyst. We're actually going to be doing more of that across legal, marketing, and kind of finance acceleration and other services in the next round. We're bringing in partnerships, so kind of acting as go-betweens with a couple organizations, including UNITAR and a very large PR firm called Wachsman. And in general, just trying to figure out in each ecosystem that we work with what needs to get done that isn't getting done and how can we do it.
Cool. Very well done. Very well done. So yeah, those are the main projects for today, and I would like to invite all our guests to participate in the conversation. If you have any question for the presenters, please ask, and let's get the conversation going. If you don't mind, I will start because I promise that I had quite a few questions about GenWealth. And I would like to know how did the public receive the proposal that you have? What is the general opinion that people express to you when you disclose the project and you present it? Because it's a quite kind of particular niche you are in, and it's very important, in my opinion. But it's not something that people usually are happy to talk about, no? So how did you pass this obstacle?
Yeah, I think you're basically already answering your own question. As you're saying very well. It's like it's something that is important, but most people don't think about it until it's maybe too late, right? And are not prepared for it. But of course, if you go and you speak to someone and you tell them what it is about, the large majority of the people will say, yeah, this is important. We need something like that. But the difficulty is afterwards, right? Reminding people to do this beforehand, to plan and prepare beforehand. I think that's the real challenge. But we'll be creative with our marketing. We'll push education, push the community as well about the importance of these. And of course, there's a lot of things you can do. It's like we are all here on blockchain to align incentives. So we can definitely work with that and try to incentivize people to do what's best for them. In fact, I think that's one of the most amazing things of blockchain is exactly that, guiding the behavior to what is best for individuals and for humankind in general. So we'll try to experiment with that, and hopefully that will be enough incentives for people to care about this subject.
We definitely could do some marketing for you. I mean, we're basically initiating the whole process. Coming to you. It's like Raphael is the end goal. And so yeah, I think that
Yeah,
could
we do like a
open up.
whole life experience from
Exactly.
from birth to yeah.
I've been asking that question when I read what you've been writing, or actually I saw your video, and it's a good video. And the thing that I was asking myself is what happens to the funds that are locked in farms, for example, or in liquidity pools?
That's an amazing question. That's an amazing question. And maybe I can give a little bit of context as well. We went to the Cardano Summit. We were able to be there with our first version, with our testnet there of this product, where you can already, do things like staking, spend your ADA, deposit your ADA, all that stuff, and do everything related to inheritance. Then one of the next steps we want to do is to have the DeFi aspect as well. And that will require especially because of that, it will require an API with integrations with logic that caters for that. So the goal, and this was one of the questions we were asked even recently in the Battle of the Builders. So it's a great question. The goal is to, within this logic and within these integrations, whatever positions you have open with your vault, whenever someone is claiming the assets, that position is closed, and the assets are sent to the back to the contract, and people are able to then claim all the assets.
So basically you have it's like everything is routed through the smart contract. And always coming back to the vault.
Yeah, so the vault is like your own unique smart contract, right? And then within the vault, you have the subsections that you define a beneficiary for each subsection. And when someone is claiming that subsection, all the assets, including positions in whatever DEXs or lending or whatever we have integrated at the time, would be closed before the assets are claimed, so that the person can claim everything, and so that no positions are lost, and so that you have the freedom to actually put your assets at work while you're alive, right?
Very cool. I love the last sentence.
Yeah. I need to be careful because maybe I say a lot of times while you're alive, and that's a little bit scary.
No, I would say it's energizing. It's energizing.
Yeah, let's hope so.
I have a question to DJ. I'm on your form, on your login form, because you have I think you still have some openings for your consultation process. I'm not sure.
We do.
And there is a question that says describe your project. So you have to link to a proposal that is funded, and then you can expand on the ecosystem, improving the ecosystem. Our proposals, except the ECC, Cardano proposals, haven't been funded. So thankfully, I would be eligible, as you said, on my side. Now, I'm probably not the only founder that hasn't been funded. On that proposal that he wants to elaborate on, that is dear to his heart, or her heart. Their heart is then the right expression. What would you want them to write in describe your project? Is it like, tell us what we should expect in the call? Is it, why are you coming to us? Or is it more like a pitch that you say, okay, yeah, that sounds interesting, that's worth engaging?
So we're being a little bit more inclusive and decentralized about this, and that's the approach that we've taken on any project that we're doing in Cardano right now, which is that we don't discriminate and decide you get to get access to this public good or not. If we had an overwhelming demand for things, then we would have to kind of prioritize things. But I think as of right now, it's really we're here to help. And so what I would usually like to see in that box is if you have a project, just paste the link into it. We're all on Idea Scale or the Milestones module or Lido Nation, and we're happy to look it up. But also give us an indication of why you think you need a lawyer or a marketer or someone to do kind of that messy, boring stuff today, because that allows us to pick which of our team members who has the right superpower to talk to you. So I remember one of the projects that we were dealing with was trying to look at digital signatures, which, depending on where you are in the EU, are more or less complicated if you want to digitally sign a contract. And it so happened that one of our lawyers, while he was working at Deloitte, had done a compliant digital signature for Switzerland. And so matching those two people up in the conversation is really important if that's what you want to talk about. We have another lawyer who was kind of instrumental when it came to the merger of Singularity Fetch and Ocean for the ASI Alliance. If you were trying to merge tokens or bring ecosystems or L1s or L2s together, you would probably want the call to be with that person. And since we are kind of limited on time that we can allocate to this, we just use that field as a way to make sure that we match our experience with the person and the project.
Perfect. And most founders would say, and I'm not an exception, are limited on the resources for the project and what to allocate to legal. So there are 3 boxes that say what type of relationship you want or expecting. And I, for one, would say, if the funds are there, I'm 100% the guy who said, okay, let's work with a lawyer. But we cannot predict that as of now, if we are pre-product, for example.
Yeah.
What would you recommend then?
So we had
encouraging.
Yeah, no, go for it. I'm a startup advisor. I spend a lot of time thinking about startup strategy, and most projects are a startup of some kind, whether it's incorporated or not, whether it's one vertical among many or one project among many. And what I told the legal team is if they don't come to you with a specific need, the product that we will give you in the course of 30 to 90 minutes of consultation and some work that we kind of do pro bono in the background is a document that tells you, based off what you're trying to do, these are your legal risks. These are the ones that you must talk to a lawyer if you don't want to go to jail before implementing this. These are the areas where this is a little bit dicey. Maybe you want to consult someone. And these are the areas that you don't need to worry about. And then what I would usually tell people from a startup perspective is just view that as a capability map and kind of a gap analysis. You could also view it as technical debt if you want to look at it from a sprint basis. But as you build your roadmap, before you do certain things, before you perform certain actions, before you internationalize into more countries. I mean, I'm a community reviewer as well, like I'm sure many people in this call, and I was looking at a project just today where they were planning to do tokenization of real estate assets in 8 countries, and they thought they were going to spend $10,000 on a lawyer, and I just laughed. So I think you need that combination, and that's where we kind of really bring all those different disciplines together. Is I don't think that project is impossible, for example. I just think they need to pick one country, maybe an easy country, and we can help them figure out that scope where they can start, get a pilot, get some initial users, maybe spend a little bit more money on marketing to build a community, and then they can justify a bigger spend on Catalyst instead of doing a concept, do a full solution and get that funding to do it properly.
What a great answer. What a great
Thanks.
answer. Really. I like that. Yeah, cool.
I think
How do you guys
that's also an interesting thing, right? So maybe from what DJ was asking, maybe even trying to get a advisor to your company with a more of a legal background can be like something very interesting, and that advisor, with a small percentage of something or whatever it is in the future, could maybe give you like a lot of advice and guidance, and then if you need something more in depth, then you would probably have to pay for that, I guess.
So we actually do that as a product. We do domiciliation in Switzerland for companies that want to do that because Switzerland can be a very clean country to do certain things in. And so what we usually tell people is if you're looking for that type of relationship where you have both domiciliation and a lawyer kind of taking a look at what's going on in your company, you need to start making about $250,000 in profit. That's the point at which the higher cost of living and the higher HR and the higher admin fees in Switzerland are worth it. And that includes our fees. So if you're making less than 250, we are eating into your profitability a little bit by moving you to Switzerland and adding our fees on top. But if you're above 250,000, we are actually saving you money by charging you.
That sounds great. That sounds like a good concept of you.
We try.
Very cool. Very cool. And so you're internationally placed, basically.
Yeah.
So we could say, okay, let's go that route together and then over time build up.
Yeah, so what we usually do is we'll take a kind of a holistic view at all the activities that you want to do and in which countries. And then we'll tell you, for example, all right, you need to cite the token here, the foundation here, the operational entity here, and do it that way. Often we put the foundation and the token in different places because there are certain jurisdictions that are actually more beneficial if those two entities are not in the same place, the place where decisions are being made and the place where profit is being booked. And then obviously operationally, we also make a kind of recommendation based off what you want to achieve, not just in terms of where your clients are, but also where you want to optimize your cost for workforce. So what we found, for example, is that Eastern Europe, and in particular Romania, is a really good place to find devs. It's a great combination of people who understand Web3, who are at the right cost point. Ireland is known for taxes, but that's less applicable in Web3 because you can be a little bit more decentralized. Italy does very well. London actually does really well, especially if you need English speakers because they pay terrible salaries in London. And you can also go to Manchester and optimize that even a little bit better. So we keep that kind of international view. We're really here just to solve problems that startups in Web3 have because we want Web3 to grow and succeed. And the best way we found to do that was to help ecosystems as a whole succeed, because if your ecosystem grows, then obviously you grow as well.
Absolutely. What would you recommend to a project like us, for example? We are obviously we're from Germany. We are not obviously from Germany, but obviously being from Germany, we have the target clientele that has a little bit more money than the ones that we want to leverage to, let's say, Africa. Would you then say, okay, it would be a strategic good move, as you already touched on it, building up the community here in Germany, for example, expanding over Europe because the regulation is quite equal, and then starting to push forward into the let's say clientele pools that are less favorable with a jurisdiction that you don't know by now as a founder. That would be probably the way.
So I've advised a number of social, environmental, and governance related startups, and I always give the founders the same advice, which is build a profitable business and then give it away. And so what I would tell you is where you know the ICP, where you know the customer, and you have access to the customer and you can talk to them and you can spend an hour talking to them about their pain, and then you can close that customer, and if they have a problem you can pick up the phone or even walk over, where you can make a phone call and get an ambulance, where you can make a phone call and go visit someone and understand what the birthing site looks like. That's where you want to start. And typically for the first 3 years, you want to do the easiest, most profitable thing that you are able to defend and do differently than anyone else. And so those two caveats at the end might mean that if you can profitably be in Africa and no one else can, then that's where you should be. But if you can profitably be in Germany more profitably, then start banking those profits into a foundation that is going to serve Africa at low to no costs, or that as a nonprofit vehicle is going to be able to attract the type of grant participation or EU funds or Swiss funds that are specific to helping the Global South. That's a setup that works really well, where your for-profit arm builds expertise and knowledge and IP. Your foundation then intervenes in countries that need it and has access to additional funds that can kind of bridge the gap between operational costs and at least a break even. And then you build out from there, and one feeds the other, right? The work that you do in Africa can be really good for your brand, whereas the profitability that you build up and kind of tax-free by donating to your foundation to do these really cool things that you hold dear to your heart, can then be the engine behind other things. The other thing that I look at is a concept that I like to think of, which is really appropriate in Cardano, which is the idea of making a non-leaky ecosystem, which is to have a thought of between partnerships and between other structures within your holding. How can you capture more of the value that's created by having more live births, more mothers who survive the experience, better first years, village environments or city environments where people are not afraid of birth, of doctors who are more available to do other things that are really needed, especially when there's limited access to healthcare? How can you capitalize on all those things together so that when you create these elements of public good that then have knock-on effects on other businesses or activities, that value is being returned to you in some form, whether it's an in-kind contribution from those businesses or the community, or again, more impact that you can then translate into donations. All these things can kind of serve to make a business that is not fundamentally viable into something that can self-sustain.
Yeah. I like that you touched on the funding aspects, because on one of my last calls in a community of practice, they basically also said, if you do it right, you can find ministries that welcome you with open doors to be their arm and reach out to those that actually need your services. So yeah, absolutely. Again, a great response.
Thanks. That's what I spend too much time thinking of.
No, I love that. I really love that. We've been building a lot without the funding. We say it's like that. What you described is the typical founder problem, who would say, am I starting out as a founder right away, 100%, or am I remaining corporate and then slowly transition into becoming a full-time founder? Either way has its advantages and disadvantages. But I think the corporate way is the more safer and secure way that can bring you forward much faster, unless you are lucky enough that your self-built business, as a consulting business or whatever you do at the side to finance your actual project, isn't being hindered by some painstaking events. This happened to us, for example. We've built a business that was very, very good, and then COVID hit the fan. It was literally, we built everything up, the pipeline was full, everyone was booking, and then COVID just cut everything off.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you got to have a lot of passion to go forward. And I think that was the same with you, Raphael, right?
Yeah, definitely. Even we got funded by Catalyst, fortunately. But for example, we don't really pay ourselves. We pay the team, but we don't pay ourselves for any funding or anything like that. So like the version is more long term. I myself, I'm currently full time on this. Although I've recently started a part-time job that helps with the bills. But yeah, I mean, definitely you need to make, give up things, or just like, if you really want to make this happen. But I think it's worth it, right? Because we only have one life, and we should use it to make meaningful experiences, meaningful impact, and to live what we want to do in the world, right? And so yeah, I think it's tough, but it's rewarding, and hopefully we can make it. And even if we can't, at least we'll have no regrets. That's for sure.
100%. I was thinking of something like a founders roundtable, like every Friday, 1 p.m. or so, when the weekend starts, in our Discord, like not in the Larissa.Health Discord, but in the European Cardano community Discord, unrecorded, so that we can even swear, but just exchange and say, hey, this is what's happening right now. This is what really sucks. Because I mean, I maybe I'm the only one, but I don't think I am the only one. Sometimes you just think you could burst to tears, and then you just turn the switch and you say, okay, there's no time for tears now. Pull it through. But sometimes it's good to have somebody who hears one out, and then to see that you're not alone with that pile of paperwork. Let's call it paperwork.
And
Yeah.
if it helps people feel better about it, about 50% of the founders or more that have advised have at some point cried.
Cool.
Because of your advisory, or
Because yeah, I mean that too, but because of the things that they felt like they could finally share with someone, it's very lonely to be a founder sometimes.
yeah, it is. It is. How? Oh yeah, that's an interesting question. That would bug me. How you? I'm not so good with public interaction. Like when I interact, I either go crazy, or I'm very restrictive to myself. Like for example, like the recent events over the pond, I mean, they can go dear to your heart, or I mean, they affect us. Let's say it like that. What's your policy for yourself? Do you interact in such discussions for visibility, or just to say, hey guys, I trust you. This is between us and the 10,000 people that could read that post? Or do you say, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care to interact, or I don't care what is written in there, because writing the wrong thing can be harmful to you as a founder as well.
Yeah.
What is your policy?
And again, I don't want to monopolize voice here, so please interrupt me. This is what I've seen work. There are certain founders who are in the kind of business that can survive them having an opinion. And so typically there'll be more on the degen side, or there'll be more retail, and as long as they don't personally care about the ramifications of some people just not liking them, and they've got a model where more attention is equal to more money, then that's a good thing to do. If your business relies on trust and retaining clients over long periods of time, then mostly you should shut your mouth and have another outlet for your opinions and friends and people that you can have kind of careful conversations with. I think personally, as separate to all those things, what I've learned from being an author, because I've written about 18 books, and so part of that is interacting with readers, and more than other businesses, sometimes readers will have very little in common with each other, right? So I've got veterans, and I've got people who are 100% anti any kind of violence, and I've got people who are vegetarians, and people who swear by meat, and I've got men and women and young and old and all these things, and they all come together and they're all interacting with my brand. And what I've kind of taken from it personally, and this is maybe not the answer for you and your business, is that people don't actually care what I think. They care how my product made them feel. And so I would rather spend time understanding how my product made them feel than I would in subjecting them to my opinions unless they specifically ask for them.
Yeah. Okay, this is a tricky one. This is a tricky one. We are in the business of bringing life to earth, to out of the belly. Now there is the current topic of abortion. We are very pro feminine, pro woman, pro preserving life, but also pro preventing maternal mortality. So would you say this is a conversation that I can engage because it serves the brand as well? Or is this a conversation that I should maybe just sit on the sideline and comment in a more distanced way, which would remove basically my personality? Because today I talked to my daughter, who is or our daughter, sorry, who's 12 years at the moment, and we talked about the topic, right? And I said, can you tell me three to four reasons why an abortion would be acceptable? And literally, except for one, she hit all of them. So I think that's a delicate topic, and I probably step on a lot of toes, especially defining American Christian toes, when I say I'm pro-abortion in certain cases. How would you strategize that? It's the same with Raphael, who says, oh, I probably need to be a little bit careful on how much I mention death and life.
So I watch this. There's three things I'm going to tell you that I think will help you. The first one is whenever you're in a sales situation or a client interaction in a situation and they ask you a question you don't want to answer, ask them why they asked you, and get them to talk about the reasons why they're interested. Because, for example, I'd love to hear the situation that brought about this strong desire to talk about this topic and why you'd like to know my answer to it. Please tell me more. So that would be the first approach that I would have with most people. For Raphael, in terms of staying away from the death topic, right? I wouldn't. I would study the heck out of how life insurance salesmen sell their product. And you'll find that most of them start with a conversation around life. Actually, in a sales context, the study of life insurance is a fantastic path to go down to, because it's really a product that no one wants to think about. And so usually what you do is you start by talking to someone and saying, hey, are you married? Or do you have a long-term partner? Or do you have someone that you take care of that's really important to you? Do you have kids? How old are they? Do they go to school? Are you planning to send them to college? And if so, in what country? Do you already have the money together to be able to send them to that country? Are you planning on doing anything for them to be able to enable them to kind of start their life free of debt and free of other things? Like if you could, would you buy them their first house so that they didn't have to pay rent? And think about this idea of generational wealth and legacy that you need to do, and does your partner work, and is their income enough to do all these things if they are suddenly alone? Would you like to have life insurance? And so you do touch on the death topic, but it's not the point. The point is, what do you want to achieve and what is the legacy that you want to leave behind? But at some point, you do have to bring up the point that death is something that happens to all of us, and that if you want your goals and your dreams and so on and so forth to come to fruition, then yes, you should probably talk about death. But not as something that you need to worry about every day, but as something that if you have it covered, then you don't need to worry about it. Now going back to the difficult subject, the question I'd have for you, Marcus,
That's the same pitch.
is out of the people that you plan on selling to and helping, do they all have the same opinion as you? And are you willing to risk not helping the ones that have a different opinion?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
And I think in your product's case in particular, no matter what someone's beliefs are, I think we all agree that a baby should come into the world under the best circumstances possible.
Yeah.
100%. I think that's what you should focus. Focus on what you do and what is your impact. And abortion has nothing to do with it. This is for people who want to bring life to the world. So they care
Now,
about, like,
if it's
how
really
can I
important to
bring it?
you, again, build a profitable business and donate some of it to pro-choice causes.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's actually a very smart idea.
Yeah. You're good.
I try.
You're
That's-
good.
Wow.
You know what you're doing.
Wonderful. Extremely wonderful.
Marcus, can I ask a question?
Yes,
That's the
please.
thing. I would like to know, how did you decide to start this adventure with Larissa.Health? Because it's not something that came to the mind as the first option for many people to do something that specific, but that for me is very important because my sister is obstetrician, so she did that for most of her life. So my parents were all nurses, so I got in the hospital life, actually, luckily from the side, quite early in my life. So I saw the environments, and it's not that it's something that people usually thinks about, but I think it's very, very nice and important. So I would like to know how did you get that idea, and the motivation to start all of that?
Yeah, we have 4 kids. Wiebke and I, we have 4 kids. That's basically that was the first touch point. And one day we asked our midwife, 3 of the kids were delivered by the same midwife, or not delivered, but taken care antenatal by the same midwife, and then the aftercare as well. And I was asking her regarding a topic, and she said she's so busy at the moment, she can't cover with anything. She's just answering a lot of emails, texts, and she basically drowns in communication. So that was the first thing. I said, hey, come on, let's do something about that. We can do that. So, and we've been working with Citrix Podio a lot. I don't know who knows that, but it's an incredible platform. It used to be an incredible platform for workflow management. And we built already a content management system on top of that. So I know Podio a bit. And what I did is, okay, let's build a quick MVP and see how you would work with that. And the MVP turned out to be quite useful. So I said, okay, cool. Now we have a use case. Would you pay for that? And she said, yeah, absolutely. So we got to a pricing. And with that, we had our first customer. However, going deeper and then saying, okay, let's go into make this something proper, we figured out this is a rabbit hole with a lot of how do you call that when you crossroads? No, it's not turns. I don't know the word for it. Like branches. So a lot of holes, yeah. So every country has its own problems, and we figured out pretty quick that having 800 mothers dying worldwide is not acceptable. That's the number that you most of the time hear, but you don't hear 5,400 stillbirths a day. You don't hear that number. And we were shocked. Being parents, we were shocked. We had one of the births was critical, and it was due to the midwife that our first kid survived. So we said, yeah, we got to do something about that. So
you shouldn't forget. So the numbers of the 5,000 stillbirths. The WHO claimed, for example, that 80% could be avoided if a midwife, for example, in the developing countries, would be with the mothers to help, and though that even not there. So that's another thing, another why we're doing this.
So it's something that once you read into it, it doesn't let you go. There's no way that it does let you go. It's a wonderful topic. It's a difficult market, so it's not gonna get boring. And the clientele or the customer base isn't easy as well. They have been screwed over and over and over again. So you need to deliver something that is really well crafted, that really helps before they will take it. And that would make it a unique value proposition if we can deliver that. And we've seen, and especially in 2021, there were a lot of communication apps popping out regarding midwifery. And we were sweating, like, oh my God, they're gonna drive us to the wall before we even really started. Turned out they didn't have that recipe that would make things stick. Now with design thinking, more and more people come to a point where you see they get a recipe that would help both or be beneficial for both, but it still lacks a few things. Maybe they haven't been there yet, but many of those apps are shutting down. Many of those apps are depending on foundational donations. So it's not self-sustaining. We want to create a self-sustaining model that even when we die, or if we go to space one day, this would work. I'm a vivid fan of the vision that we can create a system that is Skynet resistant, right? That if there's an overlord AI, we have created that little AI that could turn everything around with having the right parameters to protect. So that's basically the science fiction version of it. That was a long one.
No, but very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I have a question. How does your solution help both mothers and midwives? What is the process to cater to both?
That's a good question. We support the midwives to get the information faster within an alarming system, an alert system, right? And many pregnant or expectant mothers even don't get a midwife at all. So they are running around with no idea of what's happening. And the remote care is better than nothing. And if we can then engage last mile projects, then they are helped. So that's one part. For the midwives, we need to tackle the problem of being sustainable funded. And by basically getting a funding in from a regular payment and then making an overflow system from the more wealthy countries into the less wealthy countries, we can create something that funds us to provide free access or more or less free access to those midwives to use that app, right? Because there's no way to keep that sustainable if it's not getting paid, right? And that's something that we need to discuss with DJ or the right partner in your consultancy, how we can apply crypto to that model without becoming a crypto asset provider. We have crypto's CASP, crypto asset service provider. We have a model that we call token fusion that should run in the background, where we don't make the midwife a custodian, and neither the pregnant, because we don't want to create tax events for them. So we would take that crypto risk, basically. If crypto rises, it's good for us. If not, that's our risk. But we also have fiat fundings coming in, so it should be a well-balanced methodology to run that one. And we are also creating a NFT founder series, or funder series, basically, that allows you to get insights into the project, right? And to donate towards midwives or pregnant. So you can be kind of a patron. So this is where we use donation processes where people actually want to donate without expecting much of a return. So that's the funding process as well. And then we have side businesses that should help us to cover for those things that don't work out in the first part. Also working together with insurances and medical institutions, thank you, should help also with funding.
All right, thank you.
Speaking of funding, you tried a few times in Catalyst to get something to start up the project, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's where I lost a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
Why does the community not see that? The first one we were branded as an NFT project, which we are not. So clearly misunderstood. So maybe the pitch was wrong. The second one was a research funding. Maybe it's just because of I'm bad at marketing that as well. The reviews were actually quite good. There were one reviewer stood out in particular who said, "Oh, that's a good one. Why didn't you focus on one country first?" Right. So I would love to see that proposal coming back, but with the funding, with the focus on one country. And now we are having a side proposal which is focusing on the accounting part, because when midwives work in the DAO, you cannot expect them to work for nothing. So they need an accounting tool, and so we are having a proposal for DAO counting, which I think is a genius name. And if it's getting funded, that's cool. It increases the process. It helps us building on both. If not, we're gonna build it anyway. So I see Catalyst as an opportunity for the community to take part in this, to be proud of themselves as an intrinsic motivation, and maybe get something out of it, because we will work with reward mechanisms. But if not, I don't care. I pick the projects. I'm not gonna let anybody decide if gonna build that or not. Sorry.
Yeah. But I think one advantage of Catalyst, at least I see that for me, and I think for you, you'll be seeing the same maybe, is also like the process of refining your message and how to communicate it to people, because sometimes it's not easy. It's very clear in our mind, but what we say to other people is not clear. And your project, I think, is one that is very complex and a bit hard to communicate. And it's a project also related to a niche where probably a lot of people don't know that much about, like, So that process of trying to refine communication and getting more people to understand, I think that would be useful, not just for Catalyst, but overall when you're speaking to partners, to potential investors or potential donors or whatever it is. I think that's
100%.
also a great part of the learning experience.
100%. DJ, just jump in.
Just real quick, so I looked at your proposal for Fund 11, and you're right. Your reviews are decent. You have a good number of accounts voting for you, but the average wallet size for those accounts is too small. So it's a targeting issue. You're not speaking to the right people. Not that those people aren't valuable and useful, but they aren't getting you the voting power you need. If you have strong connections to them, I would say that if you asked each of them to introduce the project to one other person as a member of the community, not as a voter, you would probably get funded next time you put it up.
Okay, cool. That's a good tip. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Guys, we're centric here now. Putting this around us. And oh, by the way, Wiebke is not a crypto guy. So that makes it even more interesting. So everything that is related to blockchain SSI, she did the Atala Prism course, but everything that is related to crypto, I have to sell it to her. Right. So that's a good training for me.
I had a question for Raphael, actually, and I really love the GenWealth project because I've had to sit through 45-minute lessons by people who tell me this is how you protect your seed phrase or your recovery phrase, and you have to print it on a piece of paper and then cut it in half and then laminate it and bury half in your parents' backyard and give the other one to a lawyer, but don't give them the whole thing, or give it to two lawyers who hate each other so that they don't get together and steal your wallet. And I just look at them and I say, yeah, or you could just talk to Raf and not spend the rest of your life worrying about this thing. But where are you in terms of let's say I want to give everything to my spouse and we're in a car and we run into something that makes us not be living anymore at the same time, and I had actually meant for that wallet to transfer to her. What's next? Who takes care of my kids?
Yeah. So what you can do, and even with the vaults and the token mechanism we have, is that, and you can do it right now, but we definitely need to improve the user experience in the interface to make it super easy for people so that, you know, the complexity is abstracted. But what you can do is to put basically, if your spouse, like, put a rule for your spouse to inherit and a certain timeline, and then if your spouse is not able to inherit everything, put someone else afterwards with a longer timeline that could inherit everything. So if your spouse is not it's not live anymore, as long as with you, there will be a third person or a fourth or a fifth. You can do as many as you want, and you can work with other things as well, like charities or whatever you want in the future. In fact, hopefully in the future we can also help on board some charities into using crypto and maybe getting some more funding and some more support through this, maybe even for Larissa.Health, if someone wants to support the project, right? It'd be an interesting partnership.
Sorry.
But yeah, that's the process. And yeah, so you can put backup people if something happens, definitely.
And what if I have two kids who don't love each other as much as I love them both equally?
Okay, so you can still use the process of dividing, right? The same process of like saying these assets go to this person, this asset goes to these people. You give them the beneficiary tokens, and they are able to claim at a later date.
Okay.
For example, then your wife. So yeah, you can still use the same functionalities for the second person. It's it's kind of a process of a vault nested in a vault in practice, but we can abstract that in the interface for the future. Definitely, it's something we could do relatively easy.
Yeah.
And we'll need to do it for people to have a good experience.
That's DJ. Is this different for countries? In Germany, for example, the inheritage is pretty specific. Like spouse, half of it, and the other half is divided between the kids. And so on, and then it trickles down.
It is.
So that would be something that Raphael needs to incorporate basically in the wallet to say, or in the vault to say, you're not allowed to do that in that country. Is
That's
that
awesome, man. That's awesome that you did that question. We can't do that exactly, but that just falls like right into the proposal we have for this round.
really?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, it's as you said, that's very important. Different countries have different rules. Even in terms of wills, like some countries you can do a will and you can do whatever you want with it, like the US, and you can even say your wife, your kids, nobody gets everything depending on the state. And you can do everything. Other countries like Europe, some countries in Europe, even for wills, you have a rules like that you need to leave at least certain percentage to your wife and kids, and only the rest you can do whatever you want. So it's very different. And that's so the app is completely self-custodial. So basically complying with the law is the responsibility of the user, of the person, because we don't have the possibility to freeze your tokens, to stop you from spending. We don't have the capacity to do anything. But compliance is very important. So we are creating basically an inheritance compliance calculator, which basically gets the data from the DApp, evaluates your assets, and allows you to see if you're complying with the law in your country and to simulate in terms of valuations. Even you can even add assets you have from the real world, because those should be accounted as well, not just crypto assets, and try to see if you're compliant or not. And yeah, and this was also, we spoke with a few inheritance professionals in different countries. We were also lucky to be contacted by people in the industry who were just curious about what we were doing. And that was like one of their big requirements as well for an eventual MVP, for eventually working with them and for them to leverage this technology, because blockchain, GenWealth, like what we're doing, we would solve a lot of problems in terms of locating assets, locating ownership, distributing the assets, something that usually takes months. Months could take much less time through using blockchain, and would increase a lot productivity and decrease costs for these companies. But yeah, we need to have also as well other systems in place for them to be able to use us. And the long-term vision for this, which is still far away, so I need to manage expectations, would be to actually, create this complete suite of solutions so that they can use GenWealth, use Cardano to manage their assets, being compliant with law, everything, and also help us through that incentive, because it's better for them. It's more, they can decrease costs and be more productive. They would be incentivized to tokenize assets to be able to use them, to use GenWealth and use the Cardano blockchain to manage them. And as it's an industry that moves trillions of dollars, it would be a really exciting opportunity. So definitely this is something we're exploring. And even in the law part is something we are exploring, trying also to be as flexible as possible, because even from research we already do, inheritance law, it remains kind of stable, but there are things that change, like exemptions and things like that in tax law usually can change every year, depending on how it's built in the regulation. In some countries changes with inflation and stuff like that. So we can't really fix a number, fix something and apply everyone to follow that. What we can do is give the people the tools, the information for them to check if they are compliant, to be compliant, to be on top of what is happening. But then it's your responsibility, especially if you want to have self-custody. But you can still leverage professionals for advice, and the professionals will have this tool to guide you without, for example, having to control your assets if you don't want them to have control over it.
Where you could add a commission system to it, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, we have GenWealth, we have our fees and our commission, and then like they can use it and they can charge whatever. I've had one professional that said, which was not very nice, but he said, "You can even sell us this as a subscription." And I was like, yeah, I was not even thinking about it, but yeah, there's a lot you can do there for
Yeah,
sure.
you could do this with you could calculate how long is the rest, the time span of living, and then you could make a subscription and say, okay, this would be the fee for the lawyer, and then say, okay, this is the monthly rate that you had to pay in order to get that going. So
yeah,
that will work. And you wouldn't even have to pay, because maybe you take the bet on the crypto.
yeah, no, there's a lot we can do on that area as well. Yeah, it's very exciting, and it's something we want to explore. Yeah, that's why we have this proposal. We'll explore it either way, but with this proposal, we can. We already have a good developer to work on this, and we could put them working at the same time as we are doing the rest of the work with the app. That is our priority. So we could do both at the same time, and that would be very good in terms of just delivering things faster and being ready for launch closer as well. So
You
that's
find
Actually, I love listening to Raphael speak, because he's so disciplined as a founder. Like he's got his thing that he's doing and he knows what his roadmap is, but his topic is so interesting that you can't talk about it without 5 or 10 or 50 different ideas popping up. And I'm sure he's got a suggestions pile, but he's quite good at staying focused.
awesome.
well,
Do you
thank
have
you. I didn't know that.
Did you have a proposal as well, DJ?
I mean, we've got a couple. I think the two that are probably most interesting for the community is we've dropped 2 proposals in the marketing and growth category. One of them is a collaboration with UNITAR, so that's the UN's arm for training and research. And the proposal is for them to spend 5 days teaching up to 30 members of the Cardano community how to sell tech to the UN. So it'll be a look at what are the different organizations that work in the UN, how do they create impact, what are their metrics that they need to worry about, how do they get funded. It'll be how they procure tech in general. What are the use cases of DLT that they find acceptable? And what are the problems that they have not solved yet that they're really looking for an answer to? And then an opportunity to kind of engage with them based off what the people in the workshop have listened and learned and say, hey, have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? And maybe get some feedback. So the goal would be to get some people from the foundation, from Emurgo, from IOG, but also members who are running projects on Cardano, and just put them all in the same room for 5 days and maybe come out with some stuff that people could really apply in that transnational setting. So if we get funded, we'll be able to do that twice in 2025. And the interesting thing there is it's a category with a $2 million project limit. We're looking for 390K ADA. So it's really one of the smaller projects in that category. The other one that we're looking to push out is we've partnered with a very large public relations firm called Wachsman, who do media training and kind of pushing projects forward. And the goal will be to take 2 cohorts of 5 startups within Cardano in 2025 and do what I do, which is kind of take a look at the project and say, okay, have you sharpened this? Is this really what you can sell? Where's your funnel? If we get you a bunch of attention, how are you actually going to sell stuff, right? How is this going to lead to adoption? Make sure that that's there, because I think a lot of people waste money on PR. They get the attention, they get the million impressions, and then there's nowhere for that flow of people to go. So we're going to fix that first. And then Wachsman will take them to the world. They'll media train them. They'll put them in front of global media. We're specifically going to be looking for projects that have kind of an enterprise adoption angle, since that's a priority for Cardano. But we'll also try to take the experience of that, testimonials from the founders, generalized training, and bring that back to the community so you can kind of learn what are the tips and tricks from a global top-rated PR firm. In as much as they'll let us do that, there's some IP issues there. But we would look to do that as kind of a 12-month project where we start by accelerating the startups that are already ready to kind of go in front of enterprises. Maybe some early stage where it's really kind of a couple primitives or single function prototypes that a CIO might want to play with within their corporate structure, and some finished solutions where it's just ready for mass adoption. And then just getting them the attention that they wouldn't have otherwise, which will also have the benefit of showing people that stuff is really happening on Cardano. So those are 2 projects we'd love to get the community support for and attention on, and just talk about it. Obviously this is a very competitive category. We're not expecting to just automatically get both those things funded, but if it starts a conversation, maybe we can refine that, resubmit, or maybe one of them or both of them get through.
Can you guys add your proposal links to the GitHub issue, please? And then we put them underneath the video. And with that, we follow a tradition. Last words for a founder. No, that was the wrong version, but I wanted to incorporate Raphael again.
Last words, that's tough.
What's your tip for a founder?
Tip for a founder?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, that's tough. There's so many things you can say for a founder in general. There's a lot.
Pick one that you like and come back to one of our next fireside chats.
Yeah, no, I mean, okay. I guess one tip maybe or something that could be important is to try to define very well the vision of your company, the impact you want to make in the world. I think for Cardano this applies a lot. Maybe right now as we are in the community review and we are reviewing a lot of proposals, sometimes you review a proposal and you understand what it does, you understand what it is, right? But you don't understand really the why, you don't understand what's the mission with this and what's the end vision. And I think that's important for people. Sometimes it matters even more than just what you're doing, is why you want to do it and what's the impact you want to have in the world. So yeah, I'd say that for now.
DJ?
Yeah, man, Raf, that was a really good one. I would have stolen it if you hadn't mentioned it. The one I'd give, and a little bit based off what Marcus was going to say, is don't quit your day job until you're sure. And quit your day job as soon as you're sure. So both those things, right? I think I've seen lots of founders. I was talking to one, for example. He quit. He set up his company. He was all for it. He was expecting to have 6 months on unemployment to be able to stand this thing up. And he realized that as soon as he incorporated a company, the government made him ineligible for unemployment. So now he had zero funding. So it's really like I think that's really important for a founder, is that timing issue. But it's also realizing that while you're still having conversations with the person and the people who are going to be your clients, while you're still figuring out why your product is 10 times better, while you're still figuring out who your co-founder is, while your co-founder doesn't have a pool of money waiting to be their salary, and you can't commit to sustaining a team from your own funds, it's okay to take another month and draw on that salary and maybe, lose a couple hours sleep, but do it without putting other people or yourself in a bad situation.
Do you want?
Oh. I don't have to say that much. I'm happy to be here. I learned that much, but what I can say as a founder, do it with all your heart, everything, the communication and everything. So that's my thing I'm doing.
Is it unfair if I add something too?
No.
It's okay to take your time. If you have something that you think is worth it, then it's okay to take your time. If it's a stupid idea, then it wouldn't last long. But if it's something that is really solving something, then the market will most likely not rush by. I'm seeing that with us. We've been working on this for years now, and the problem is still imminent. And every time we tell people about that issue, it's still a new issue to them. And most people would just say, "Oh, but that's not important." And then you start explaining. And if you've been working with your project is a bad word here because it's limited, but in time. If you're working on what you intend to launch, then there's so much that you can tell about it, and maybe be convincing without wanting to convince, but just sharing your idea. So you have time. Thank you. David and Derek.
Good last words. Good last words.
You did it again.
Because that's always a worry, right? That's always a worry. You're always worried about the competitors. Are they going to be fast? Are you being fast enough? And then sometimes you have a schedule, but then things happen and you can have delays or problems, and it's always frustrating, right?
Yeah. And you're never ready. You're never ready to present. So that's why you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Davide, get us out of here.
Okay, guys, thank you. Thank you for having joined us today. I think it was one of the most interesting fireside chat we had in a while. Very interesting project, very interesting hints.
You say that to everyone. You say that to
No, I
everyone.
don't. I
Yeah,
don't.
you lie.
Just joking.
Is that no? I think we have a good track record. Every time we manage to improve a little bit. So let's hope to keep it like this.
And I have
yeah.
to
Go
say,
ahead.
I always, like DJ already said, I always enjoy when you're here, and you've been impressive from the very first time. But I have to add too, DJ, you rocked it today. It's like that was amazing, like literally amazing. I mean, who doesn't book the meeting with you? It's just effing stupid. Sorry, I just said it. It
Thanks,
had to
man.
be
I
done.
appreciate it. And it was really nice hearing about all your projects, honestly. I think you know, the general rule that I usually go by is if your project doesn't affect health, wealth, or relationships, then it's probably not worth spending your life on. And you're all nailing that. You're all clearly very passionate about it. I was actually stalking Vibka a little bit and seeing that she's a former GP and working in some pretty impressive stuff too. You know, the people in this call are non-trivial people who have decided to do important things because they could imagine doing nothing else. So it's really cool being here with you all.
Thank you. Now you get us crying.
50%.
Go
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.